Hello, welcome to Back When versus Now. I've got a new microphone, so the sound should sound better from all future videos. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 really big stores that went bust. Some of them are in the 2000s or 2010, etc. But in the 90s, the reason I'm talking about them is they were so iconic in the 90s. Let's start with Blockbuster. Absolutely brilliant store in the 90s. This was the go-to for your film nights, and as it progressed, you used to get your PlayStation games from there, your Mega Drives, etc. You could hire anything that was game console wise, VHS wise, and then obviously they moved into the DVDs as time changed. Um, Blockbuster was in a lot of debt very early, I believe, and then when Netflix come along and other streaming services like Virgin TV and Sky, they really struggled to keep up with the industry, and they didn't take themselves forward. Next up today, we're going to talk about Toys R Us. This was the legendary store, just absolutely brilliant. Anyone that was around in the 80s or 90s and the 2000s absolutely adored Toys R Us. Another company was absolutely riddled with debt, and I probably think that Amazon, Argos, Index, if you remember Index, probably played a big part in sinking their ship. Toys R Us was magical. You could go in there and play with all the toys. They had like keyboards. You could have a go on that if they had the new consoles, Nintendos, Segas, and you could play with them. You could even get a push bike and ride it around the store. It was absolutely sensational. Okay, another one that I think you class as a little bit more girly is Debenhams. Now they've another one struggled massively with debt from early on. Um, Debenhams was for me in my time was like a store that was over 3 levels, and on each floor they had a little bit of everything. Get your makeup done in there, to buy a new pair of jeans and leave with a toaster. Um, Not really sure why it disappeared. I think it went into administration, and obviously that just sunk the ship, and off went Debenhams. So the next one, maybe one that some of you haven't heard of, we had it in my town that I'm from, the Warner Brothers studio store. Now I must admit, when I first walked past this for the very first time, I kind of looked at it and thought, that's going to be expensive. And in the 90s, we were really price conscious. So we thought about what we spent, and coming to my next door in a minute, you'll know why that this kind of store didn't exist. So the high end branded items, especially in my town, more northern than anything, just didn't cut any mustard really. Okay, so the next store is Woolworths. Now Woolworths had been around for a good time before I even existed, but in the 90s, and I'm sure it was in the 80s as well, was very iconic. Woolworths was the go-to place to get a bargain. It was almost like when on eBay or Amazon now, when you go into like the Best Buys, but Woolworths was just a whole store of Best Buys. So you'd go in and they used to have like singles for 99p, like on CD. And you used to be able to get LPs and cassettes and for 49p, and they always had the chart CDs that come out. And you'd have Pick and Mix, the iconic Pick and Mix in there. So it's a fantastic store. But the problem with Woolworths is they just didn't come through the times. They just didn't adapt at all. Well, other retailers at the time were just starting to come online. They just didn't do it. They just didn't do anything like that. You couldn't go online, so it was at the point where you could go online and order a CD. Yes, Amazon was around, early 2000s, etc. But Woolworths just thought that the name alone would carry them, and unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. Okay, and finally, one last store, BHS, the British Home Stores. This was always a store for me that my mum used to drag me into, and I absolutely hated going in there. I believe, once again, bad management, riddled with debts. I believe they shut, oh, let me think, 2016 or 17, something like that, after declining for years and years and years. I never really saw the point of it. As soon as Amazon come along, and eBay, where you could buy basically everything they stocked and have it delivered within a day or two, for me, that store was brilliant because I never had to go in there again. Anyway, that's five iconic stores from the 90s. Some are from the 80s and some are before that, but they were massive in the 90s. Have disappeared over the last kind of 20 years. Hope you've enjoyed today's video. I look forward to seeing you again. Not sure what I'll talk about tomorrow yet. Got some good ideas, I'm sure.